Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man's Quarter Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm going to be reading another book for you guys, and it's Christmas related in a way. The book is titled The Legend of St. Nicholas by Anselm Grun. I hope I ain't butchering that person's name. Illustrated by Giuliano Ferri, and is translated by Laura Watkinson. Now, I'm reading this book because St. Nicholas is technically the original Santa Claus, but the day that your guys watching this is St. Nicholas Day. So that's why I wanted to be on here and read this. But anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Many hundreds of years ago, a devout and virtuous husband and wife lived in the city of Patara. For a long time, they had wanted to have children, so they prayed to God and asked him to send them a child. Finally, God gave them a son, and they named him Nicholas, which means victory of the people. Now that is nice. Even when he was a little boy, Nicholas liked to help people who were in need. He prayed to God and listened to the priest's sermons in church. When Nicholas grew up, he decided to become a priest himself. Like Jesus, he wanted to help people and to tell them about God's love. And here's a picture of Nicholas's mom and dad, and his mom is holding him when he was a baby. Sadly, not long after Nicholas had become a priest, his parents died. Yeah, I heard about that through people who were impersonating St. Nicholas, but also through the stories. His parents died of a famine, which led Nicholas here to inherit a large fortune because his mother and father had been very rich. He did not keep the money for himself, but shared it with the poor. One day, Nicholas heard about a man who had 3 daughters. This man was from a noble family, but he was very, very poor. The man had become so desperate that he was going to sell his 3 daughters as slaves so that he could feed the rest of the family. Nicholas could not allow that to happen, so he took a bag of gold and went in secret to the man's house at night. He tossed the bag through a window. Now the father had enough money to go looking for a husband for his oldest daughter. So there's Nicholas right there at the corner window about to throw a bag of money into the house. But yeah, back then, if you did not have enough money for your daughters to get married, you either have to sell them as slaves or put them into prostitution, which that is not a good thing at all. A few days later, Nicholas secretly visited the house again and threw a second bag of gold through the window. That meant that the second daughter could marry too. The father, however, had become curious and wanted to know who was giving gold to his daughters. Sometime later, when Nicholas tossed a third bag of gold through the window, the sound woke the man. He ran after Nicholas and recognized him, but Nicholas asked the father not to tell anyone his secret. The man and his 3 daughters were overjoyed, and the family celebrated and had a magnificent wedding feast. And there's Nicholas right there by the doorway, and the father's overjoyed with a bunch of bags of gold with his daughters. When the bishop of the city of Myra died, the bishops from the surrounding towns came together with the priests to choose a new bishop, but they could not agree. God spoke in a dream to one of the bishops, saying, "Earlier tomorrow morning before the service, stand watch at the church door. The first man who enters the church should become your new bishop." The bishop did as God had commanded. As he watched at the door the next morning, Nicholas entered. The bishops and priests took him and placed him on the bishop's throne. Nicholas was reluctant at first, but there was no point arguing with all those other bishops. So he did as they wanted and became Bishop of Myra. And there's all the priests sitting down looking at St. Nicholas as the new Bishop of Myra. Bishop Nicholas was very popular with the townsfolk of Myra. He helped people whenever he could. He was good and kind, and everyone knew that they could go to him with their worries. One day, some sailors were caught in a bad storm. The waves tossed their ship around, and they thought they were going to sink to the bottom of the sea. In desperation, they called out, "Nicholas, if all the good things we have heard about you are true, then please help us too." Suddenly, the sailors saw Nicholas walking across the sea toward them. He said, "You called me, and here I am." Well, that's a first. I never heard of this part of the legend. It's almost like he's walking across water like Moses would. I always heard that he was on the ship with sailors and he would pray for a calm sea and boom, it stops. Nicholas climbed up into the ship with the sailors and helped them with their sails and rudder. Soon the storm stopped and the sea became calm. Nicholas disappeared as quickly as he arrived. The men sailed their ship safely into the harbor at Myra and then headed straight for Bishop Nicholas's church, where they thanked him for saving them. But Nicholas said to them, "You should not thank me, but God. It is He who saved you." Since that day, Nicholas has been the patron saint of sailors. And here they are, kneeling and thanking Nicholas. Once there was a terrible famine. Not a draught of rain had fallen for a long time. The sun burned down from the sky and scorched the entire harvest. The people of Myra became very hungry because there was no grain to be found anywhere in the land. So they went to Nicholas and asked him for help. Nicholas kneeled down and prayed to God, and God answered him, telling Nicholas to go to the harbor early the next morning. Yeah, that's terrible right there. You just walk out there and you see your animals just died from heat exhaustion, and you can't get nothing to eat. When Nicholas got to the harbor the following morning, a merchant ship from Alexandria had just arrived. It was loaded to the brim with grain for the emperor. Nicholas went to the ship and asked the captain to give him some grain to help ease the people's suffering. But the captain said, "I'm sorry, but I can't give you anything. The grain has been measured very precisely. If we lose any, the emperor will punish us severely." But Nicholas promised that not one single grain would be missing when they reached the emperor. So finally the captain agreed. Yeah, that's ridiculous. See, you should give any grain you have to the people, and don't let the emperor just scare you to death, because that's all for him. The people are hungry, they need something to eat. Nicholas gave the people as much grain as they needed from the ship, and they all had enough to eat. There was even some left to sow for the following year. Terrible famine was over. Everyone went to Nicholas and thanked him for his help. When the merchant ship reached the emperor, the captain found that what Nicholas had said was true. Not one single grain was missing. The sailors told everyone what had happened in Myra. They praised God and thanked him. The news of the miracle quickly spread throughout the entire region. He really is one magical gifted man. After his death, Nicholas was made a saint, and many people remembered him for his kindness. One time, a nobleman who had no children asked for St. Nicholas's help so that God would give him a son. The man promised that he would have a golden cup made for the saint if his wish came true. Finally, the nobleman's wife did indeed have a son. The nobleman remembered his promise and had a golden cup made, but it was so beautiful that he decided to keep it for himself. He had another one made for St. Nicholas instead. The nobleman and his son set out in a boat to take the cup to the church of St. Nicholas. On the way, the son used the first cup to scoop some water from the river, but he tumbled into the water, taking the cup with him, and he drowned. Oh man, that is so sad. Even though he was mourning his dead son, the father sailed on to the church of St. Nicholas so that he could keep his promise. When he arrived, he placed the second cup on the altar, but he felt over. The nobleman picked it up again. Once again, it fell and rolled off the altar. This happened a number of times. Then the door of the church opened, and the son he had believed to be dead walked in, holding the first cup in his hand. The boy placed the cup on the altar, and this time it stayed where it was. He told his father that it was St. Nicholas who had saved him from the water. The man was overjoyed and placed both cups on the altar for St. Nicholas. That is amazing. People all over the world love St. Nicholas because of many miracles that he performed during his lifetime, and even from heaven after his death, because he was such a good friend to children who were in need. Young people in some countries still receive gifts on his feast day, December 6th. On the evening of December 5th, they leave their shoes or a plate by the door and hope that St. Nicholas will leave something for them. Even today, on the feast of St. Nicholas, German children like to sing, "Let us be glad and full of cheer, and rejoice in our Lord above. Happy, happy, tra-la-la-la. Now St. Nicholas's Eve is here. Now St. Nicholas's Eve is here." And there's St. Nicholas walking down to this house that's got a pair of boots and shoes right by the door. I really do like this book. I liked how this artist and illustrator put their talents together to make a story for young readers to learn about this great saint right here. Well, okay, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading / Christmas content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's rapping. And that's the day, everybody.